Our next speaker is Roxxanne Newman, who is an overdose survivor and person in long-term recovery.
Hi everyone. How are you?
Good.
All right. I'm going to read off of my speech because if I don't, I'll go on a tangent. Some of you know what that's like. So. This morning I woke up, went to the kitchen, and began to brew my coffee as I turned on the news to hear what the weather will be like. I proceeded to pack lunches for myself and my two daughters, Grace, 4 years old, and Angelina, 16 months. After getting myself and the girls dressed, by far no easy task, we loaded into the car and set off to begin the day. During our car ride, we usually sing songs, play games, practice letter memorization, or play I Spy. This is my favorite part of the day. I dropped them off at daycare, but before I left, I kissed them both goodbye, gave them the biggest hugs, reminded them to be kind, but most of all, to do their very best. After all, that's all any of us are really trying to do in life. We're all just trying to do our best. My life's morning routine is a stark contrast to what it once was. A little over 9 years ago, my morning routine consisted of possibly waking up, as sometimes there were days I'd go without sleep. If I did wake up, it was usually in an abandoned building filled with others such as myself. There were no lunches to be made as I had no food, no clothes to change into as I only had the clothes I was wearing. I had essentially been homeless on the streets of Providence for 6 years. My task for the day? Stay ahead of the pain of withdrawals that would eventually sneak up on me if I didn't obtain heroin in a timely fashion. But most of all, the pain of realizing what had become of my life. The pain of having no hope for the future. The pain of active addiction. I had come accustomed to this life, and though it might sound ludicrous, at the time, it was the best that I could do. For a life of unhealed trauma had propelled me to find comforts and the poisons that I knew would eventually kill me. And the drugs almost did. In fact, they almost did 29 times. 29 times I overdosed. I will tell you that out of those 29 times, 28 of them would result in my life being saved only for me to return back to the streets to live the only life I knew then. But on the 29th time, something happened. Something had changed. I don't believe I'll ever be able to fully explain nor comprehend it. But after the 29th time, I decided to engage in the recovery process. Since that day, I have gone on to build a life worth living. I have two beautiful daughters whose lives were only made possible due to the heroic efforts of 5 paramedics and the use of Narcan that ultimately saved mine. I went back to college to pursue my dreams of a college education, and just last week officially became a PhD student. I work in one of the most prestigious research institutions in the world, in a lab doing exactly what I love with some terrific human beings. I have found peace within my heart. My life is second to none. I am recovering. Today we stand at what is a historic moment in our state, country's, and recovery movement's history. Known for their efficacy and life-saving interventions, science has demonstrated that safe injection facilities are an unparalleled tool in the fight against the overdose crisis. No one who has ever used these facilities has ever died from a drug overdose. Yet they do not come without controversy. Today, we as a community are taking a courageous step forward in combating the true enemy of addiction, stigma. We as a community are moving beyond the archaic beliefs of once an addict, always an addict. We as a community are saying that everyone's life is valuable and worth saving without judgment. We are, as a community, are recovering from outdated, harmful practices and moving forward into new life-giving ones. I want to thank the General Assembly for their courage to move forward and pass this bill. Thank you for doing your sworn duty of serving the people, even the people who appear to be undeserving of service. I want to thank the Super PAC, specifically Haley, AJ, and Lisa, for their tireless efforts to put forth bills that work to save lives, as well as address inequalities within our laws and public policies. I want to thank the researchers and academics such as Dr. Brandon Marshall, Dr. Alexander Collins, and Dr. Brenda Jacka, who have dedicated their careers to scientifically examining harm reduction interventions, such as safe injection facilities, in order to bring forth the data needed to take this progressive step forward. I want to thank all of you, the outreach workers, the task force, the clinicians, all the recovery facilities, the harm reduction centers, the family and friends who continue to cry out for help for the people who they love who are struggling, and the recovery community for continuing to shout out loud and clear that recovery is possible. Lastly, but most of all, I want to thank those who are still struggling with the disease of addiction. Thank you for getting up every morning, and even though it might not feel like you are, continuing to fight a vicious battle that only someone who has experienced it can truly understand. Thank you for dealing with the constant stigma, hate, and abuse that comes with this disease. And thank you for just being you. Regardless of how you feel right now, we as a community love you. We as a community find value in your life despite what your current circumstances might look like. We as a community want to love you until you can love yourself. I believe safe injection facilities in this bill that will establish the first ever safe injection facility, legal one, in the nation, are a symbol of this love for you. Thank you.